indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Please have a seat. Okay. First on our agenda is consideration and approval of the minutes of last meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move we approve.
I have a motion and a second. Call for vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, by like sign. Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda is new site plan consideration. This will be discussion and consideration of application for variance for Zaxby's sign height. Does that require a public hearing? As it is a variance?
Not for the sign variance, I don't know, but I think just, that was, if it's a dimensional variance, it would, but just a sign variance.
Okay. All right, see you've gone to the podium, got comments for us regarding the sign variance?
There were no comments from the public regarding it.
All right.
I did have a question, Mr. Hall. I was trying to read I guess the sign ordinance is a separate one that the city has passed, right? That's on the website. I guess normally pole signs of this height are excluded unless they're in the interstate zone. Is that right from what I read?
By the original ordinance, yes. Ground signs have been amended since to a maximum height of 6 feet.
6 feet, okay.
Correct.
Okay, but for something this size, it still needs to be in the interstate zone within the 300 feet or whatever, or was I looking at the wrong one?
That chart was deleted.
That one's gone?
Yeah,
Okay.
that one is now gone, and the appendix referencing it.
Okay,
It was appendix
I think it's
B.
still on the one that's linked on the website, so maybe.
Yeah, that's the original sign ordinance.
Okay.
So not the amendment to it.
Okay.
So it is 6 feet.
Correct. 6 feet is maximum ground sign height with 32 square feet total.
Okay, and that's why they're here for a variance.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Now it's always this one.
40.
40.
Any other questions?
How many pole signs like this do we have in the city? Do you know? I was trying to count. I know the Super 8 has one.
That's the
Is that
only
the
one
only
that comes
one?
up off the top of my head, the old Super 8.
Okay.
And that would have been approved under county.
Right.
And the way the ordinance reads now, if they were to have to do renovation to it, or if it were damaged beyond 50%, they would have to abide by the new 6 foot maximum, unless they apply for a variance.
And I guess since I obviously didn't have the right code, are there findings we need to hold in terms of what's required to issue a variance for the ordinance as far as, I know for like dimensional variances, we have to hold certain specific requirements.
I don't think there's any specific requirements you need to make, it's just whether or not you want to allow it, whether you think it's gonna be affect property values or be aesthetically pleasing to the city, or whatever.
And they want the 40-foot pole so it'd be visible from the interstate. Is that the purpose?
Correct.
Well, yeah. I think that opens a whole can of worms for future pole signs.
There is one other pole sign I just remembered. Behind Sherwin-Williams, there is a pole sign, but that functions to bring their ground sign up to grade level. Because Sherwin-Williams sits approximately 10 feet below grade level behind.
How tall is that sign?
I'm gonna guess
Here it is right
approximately
here,
10 feet to the bottom of it.
but it doesn't stick up above the ground.
Right. And again, that's to bring it up to grade, so it is visible from the I-55.
Right. Is there anyone here from the applicant?
Anyone here from Zaxby's like to visit, like to talk to us?
I'll make a motion to deny the conditional variance.
I'll second that.
So I have a motion to deny and a second to, I'll call for a vote. Those in favor of denying this variance, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say by like sign, hearing none, because there's not any.
Motion carried.
Motion carries. All right.
Was any of the other signage on that?
Just the pole
Just
sign
the
was
pole,
for the
okay,
variance.
yes, all right.
Okay. Okay, next up is the Bellamar development. This is discussion and consideration of application for rezoning, which will require a public hearing. So with that, I open a public hearing. And in doing so, I will ask those who would like to speak in favor of this to address us from the podium. State your name and just state your name and then try to maintain your comments to 3 minutes. So those in favor? Well, I guess I know I got a few other things I need to do. So council, do we have jurisdiction to have this hearing?
Sir, Mr. Hall, was the notice of this public hearing for this rezoning request published in the newspaper, and was physical posting accomplished on the property?
It was.
All right. And at this time, has your office received any feedback regarding this petition for rezoning, whether that be in writing or verbally?
We have not.
And at this time, is there anything that needs to be appended to the minutes regarding this request?
Not at this time.
All right. Mr. Chairman, it does look like we do have jurisdiction for this public hearing tonight, and at this time it is.
Thank you,
you're
Council.
welcome to hear from.
Mr. Hall, anything you'd like, any comments you'd like to make to the board before we address those in favor of those that not?
This is basically a continuation right next door to the Oaks, which is already approved and under review right now for construction documents. It would be, I'll leave it up to them to fully describe it, but it's just going to be a further development of that for additional people. Again, self-sufficient in many ways, just not wanting to live on their own is one way to put it.
Mhm.
But I'll let them fully describe everything with that.
Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Yes. Good evening. My name's Andy Clark. I'm with the Journey and Copeland Law Firm in Madison. I'm here tonight on behalf of my client, Bellamere Development LLC. Bellamere's currently got under contract the property that you see listed there. But one of the conditions to closing on that is this rezoning that we're seeking. And what we're asking for here tonight is rezoning of this parcel that you see outlined there on the screen. It's 5 acres and it's currently zoned as C2. We're asking that that be rezoned to SU1, which is special use district. So what the intent is here is that Bellamere intends to develop, construct, maintain and own an age-restricted, self-contained community. And when I say age-restricted, kind of the common number that people put on that is 55 plus. Now I'm staring down the barrel of 55 and I'm not quite ready for a self-contained retirement facility. But some are more fortunate than I am that are ready to retire. But that is permitted under section 2600 of your zoning ordinance, that being a self-contained community. But more specifically, what Bellamere intends to do is to own and operate a comprehensive residential retirement facility with amenities for the exclusive use of its senior residents. And that's permitted specifically in section 2602B of your ordinance. And as you see there, you've got a site plan pulled up, or at least a preliminary, just conceptual site plan, I guess you'd say. The reason that we're asking for this is under your ordinance, because of the size, the nature, and the unique characteristics of this proposed facility, it doesn't fit compatibly into any other zoning district. Well, that's the entire purpose of SU1, is it kind of takes a facility like we're planning here. Think of a campus-like facility that doesn't fit into residential or commercial or any of that, because of the specific and unique characteristics that it would offer the residents there of this facility, being obviously housing, dining and food service for some or even all of their meals, recreational type uses, whether that be just a simple card game or maybe some sort of, special program that they bring in for the residents there. Commercial type outlets, maybe for some of the residents would be, maybe some of the ladies or men want to get their hair cut, or, any sort of thing that senior citizens might like to do without leaving the actual facility. And I'm just providing examples. Obviously, all of these things would be done at the site plan and construction plan phase. But the idea being here that all of those types of uses are for the exclusive use of the residents of the facility. In other words, it wouldn't be open to the public to come in and do any of those things. It's simply for them. So the things that I've just described to you, those come specifically from the actual purpose, stated purpose of the SU1 district in your ordinance. Now, as previously mentioned, this is immediately adjacent to the Oaks Assisted Living Facility that's been approved. And obviously the idea here is for a seamless transition for senior residents that, maybe they start out with the 55 and up restricted facility. Then as they age, they move on over because of their specific needs. They move right on over to the Oaks for a little bit more assistance with their ADLs or their activities of daily living. And then off to the side up there in the far top right, I believe that is a planned memory care for even more, advanced seniors that maybe need a little bit more attention and care than those do in the assisted living facility or either over in the retirement facility. So the two properties complement each other is what I'm getting at. Now, we all know that with baby boomers and even getting on into the ages of Gen X, we're fixing to be hit with a wave of retirees. So this is definitely needed. The public need is definitely there because, as Chad can tell you, seniors want to stay as close as possible to their families. Maybe as an example, grandma and grandpa move into the age restricted facility, but their kids live elsewhere in close proximity. They want to be able to be there and enjoy those activities with their family, but they don't want to keep a house and maintain yards and all of those other types of things that come along with that type of ownership. And right now, the only alternative, obviously Gluckstadt doesn't have this type of facility. There are some in the areas, but they're full and they've got long waiting lists. And as far as public need goes, obviously this is going to have an impact on the local economy and create some jobs and a positive economic impact for the city of Gluckstadt and surrounding areas. Now, the land use and transportation plan depicts this property as C1. So obviously, a special use district is not technically in compliance with the land use and transportation plan. But for all of the reasons that I've just described to you, it is the highest and best use of the subject property. We have notified all of the surrounding landowners within 160 feet of the property. You had asked if there had been any public comment. I have gotten a call from one of the adjacent property owners, kind of behind this facility, Cotton Row Investors. He was just curious as to what was going on. I told him, offered to send him a copy of the petition, told him what we were planning. He had no objection. He just wanted to be able to tell his investors what was going on the property next to him. As mentioned, we have advertised this in the paper as required for a public hearing tonight. I do have Chad with me here tonight to answer any specific questions that you have with regard to the facility or the use. So other than that, if you do have questions, please ask. If not, we would ask that you approve our petition to rezone from C2 to SU1.
Just for the minutes, you just said you received a call from
Cotton, I believe it's Cotton Row Investors. Yeah, that's it. Cotton Row Investors LLC.
So, Andy, this development is located on Calhoun Parkway, north of Stout Road.
South of Stout Road.
South of Stout Road.
East side of Calhoun Station, right before you get to Stout Road. So, assuming this would be approved, yeah, that's a 15-acre parcel right there. It's since been divided up into essentially 5-acre parcels. To the very north, you have Matt Mills, who is a general contractor, I think, that has bought that property and wants to put his office there. Just to the south, you would have this property that we're talking about here tonight, and then the very south portion of that, south third of that. No, Chris, up just a little bit. Yep, right in that area. That's where the Oaks is.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Oaks is on the same parcel that you're asking to rezone, or?
No, this is a little bit
split.
confusing because the map isn't updated. That 57554 has now been divided. It's 3 separate tracts now.
3 5-acre.
That's right. Yeah.
So, let's talk a little bit about, are you planning on having any type of multifamily dwellings there or single family dwellings there that would migrate to the next, what's to Belmar?
The Oaks, this will be called the Belmar.
This will be called the Belmar, but are you planning to have single family homes, kind of like what they have at St. Catherine's up here?
Right. Chad, you can take it away.
What types of units?
Okay, yeah, I'll be real quick. So basically what we have here, this is the assisted living that we're doing site prep now, and we're doing permitting for. This is the back side of my property that I currently own, this 5-acre tract.
All right.
We have this 5-acre tract under a contract currently for 55+ age restricted housing, essentially. And with that, you kind of brought up St. Catherine's. What I'm wanting to do here is kind of like a mini version of St. Catherine's. I don't have 100+ acres to build St. Catherine's, but there's 10 of it here. I can do something with it. With that, it gives me the option to have, more independent living, the 55+, and then you have the assisted living and memory care. What I'd do is I'd have nursing services that can go into this larger facility from the assisted living memory care. So you can kind of have all the cart services. So mom just needs help with, 3 baths a week, but the kids help with everything else. We can have nursing services go into this facility and take care of that. So St. Catherine's is a continual care model.
Right.
They start independent, go assisted, go memory care, and then they do skilled nursing. This is my own version of having the independent care, assisted living, memory care. Skilled nursing is a very challenging concept in and of itself. But I know that this is something that I can have an impact on for our community immediately.
Sorry, Tim.
No, go ahead.
So this would be like a long-term rental situation. It wouldn't be like condos where there's ownership involved.
Correct. The individuals that live here would not have ownership of the individual units.
They're apartments for 55+.
If you want to say apartments, yeah, they'd be 55+ apartments, but it's more age-restricted housing. Just like in St. Catherine's, the standalone homes that you have, those are long-term rentals. you don't own that. You do pay $100,000 and something to be able to come live there,
Sure, yeah.
but you don't own them.
Are you looking at mostly one bedrooms or would you have 2 and 3 bedrooms?
I'd love to have a set number of 2 bedrooms to allow for, believe it or not, when you get a little older, you get tired of hearing your husband snore. So you have him sleep in a bedroom and you sleep in another bedroom.
Right.
So there's definitely a market to have
A 2
some 2 bedrooms, but if you primarily 1 full bedrooms, no studios, 1 full bedrooms and a couple of 2 bedrooms for those couples that have made it to this point in their life.
Will this be gated?
So actually, I had a conversation with my guys. One thing that you could do is you could gate here and right here, so you'd have enough room for if you come off Calhoun to where you don't have an immediate, you're stopped right at Calhoun. So you could have a turnaround event, like if you gate it here and you don't have a gate, you could come up and turn back around. But yes, for this phase, for this property, I'd be able to gate the whole thing, kind of like what St. Catherine's does.
Will you have to maintain that if it's gated?
This will all be private property.
I'm already gonna be maintaining it.
None of this will be public roads, none of this will be publicly maintained, it's all private. The sidewalk would be publicly maintained, that's about it.
You realize across the street from you, there's a development going in there too.
Mhm.
Well, I say that, it hadn't come before us yet, but there's been some discussion of it. So it almost be cradle to grave right there.
Yeah, I'm very much aware of the group that could possibly come across. I've had coffee with them quite a few times, and their specific needs with adult children and those adults, you would be able to be right across the street potentially from your family members and need a little extra help.
Just for reference on this area right here is the only part that's in question for the rezone.
Yeah, that's right.
This is not, it's just
Yeah,
this
yeah,
property.
just that part.
So that's the Oaks is the other one?
The
is
oaks
that
is
right?
on this property.
And that's still
This is all
C2 and
commercial.
it's a slightly different type of development, so it was fine fitting in C2.
Correct. So a separate part.
With
That one-
pickleball courts in there?
Yeah, I got some
Yeah.
pickleball.
Look like pickleball.
Yeah, so, eventually, the grand plan, I'll go ahead and tell you the grand plan since we're here. This would be, restaurant lounge area. This would be full fitness facility, locker rooms. This would be, a pool, tennis courts and pickleball courts, all for the use of the individuals here. These individuals, honestly, they're not going to get much use out of it, but if you have family members that come and you have grandchildren and everything else, they can come. But this is just the amenities for the entire area, essentially.
I know that this is just rezoning and we're looking at this side.
Mhm.
The building that I'm looking at, is that the building for Delaware?
I am Belmer. I'm one of the partners and the executive director for. This will really just be a continuation of the Oaks. Belmer has a lot more oomph than I necessarily do, just standing on my own. But I control the whole project and how it develops.
Do you have an estimate on how many units you think it will be?
Between 75, max 100, nothing more than that.
And it's showing 2-story, I guess, is that the plan? Okay.
And what I've done is I took an existing 55 plus type community, reskinned it with what I believe kind of fits the Gluckstadt feel and concept, and just put it right there on that piece of property. I love the interior courtyards. I like putting more green space on the front of Calhoun, putting the parking more in the back of the building, so you're not just staring at a sea of parking. I think it's attractive, and it's actually very buildable. It's actually a very efficient building.
It's a beautiful building, but we're here to talk about the rezoning, so let's try to focus on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
rezoning piece of it.
Hopefully we'll be back.
Okay. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Is there anyone here that'd like to speak not in favor of this development? Okay.
My name is Dilli Babu Sriramulu. I represent Hat Group LLC. So we own the lot right next to the 9.4, right next to theirs, the 15 acre, with south of 15.
Are you just south?
Yes, south of 15 acres is what we own, like, which is the 9.4.
Okay.
So currently it's, you all know, like currently it's under C2. So, you know, like they're asking for SU1. So our plans, meaning not immediate plans, but our plans in the future was like to probably build like strip malls, like probably even bring in liquor store, something like that. So, or even restaurants, I mean, that was our original plan. We haven't started anything yet, so we're still in the works. So we're just wondering how converting this to SU1 will affect our developments. So that was our main concern. So because that means like our property value might change, meaning we may have struggled making developments on our plans and stuff like that. So we just want to see, that's the only reason we want to oppose this.
So you heard the comments about the development of what they want to do. Are there particular questions regarding what they want to do?
No, this is about rezoning because we are just because the rezoning, because we don't like rezoning our adjacent property from C2 to SU1.
Okay, so
Just
your
because we think
concern,
that will eventually affect our developments.
yeah, your concern is not necessarily what they're doing, it's just the rezoning.
That is right.
Okay.
I can tell you, as far as your property values, I can't speak on that. But as long as your property is zoned C2, this rezoning does not affect what you're able to do in your C2 zone. So if your C2 zone allows for a strip mall, a restaurant, et cetera, the rezoning of this particular parcel only affects that particular
But
parcel.
we have a concern, like, because in the future, if we try to bring in, let's say, because I know they're trying to build an assisted living facility. They do not want to like to have a liquor store right next to it.
Right, I mean, that's
Right, so
but
they
it
don't
doesn't-
want that kind of the population coming in and have the disturbance.
But as far as the effect on you being able to request to build or seek whatever you want to build on your particular piece of property, this rezoning doesn't affect that. But as far as what the development you're going to do, I can't speak to that necessarily.
So I'm just wondering, so would there be any opposition, like when we present that in the future, will there be any opposition from y'all?
I can speak to it. If it's zoned accordingly, if you're C2 and it's allowed in C2, I'm not gonna oppose you at all. Whatever you wanna do that's allowed in that zoning, as long as it meets the ordinance of the city, I'm fine with it.
But I will tell you is that while he's just one voice, when you come back with a plan of what you want to do with your property, you'll still have to come through the same process. You won't have to rezone, but you'll have to come through the same process. And then this board will hear what you want to do and then make a decision accordingly, which will go to the Board of Aldermen, who will ultimately approve or disapprove. So they're all handled independently of one another. Now, if he decides that he does not agree with it, he certainly has the right to voice his complaint. But his complaint or issue, it's just heard, just like yours is heard, and we make decisions independently.
And that's our only concern at this
Sure.
point.
Yeah.
Just one point of clarification, if I may. The property that we're seeking rezoning is not immediately adjacent to him. Yeah, that's
there's
the
a property
little,
split.
I mean, you are
Right.
on, right? You are-
So actually, the property that is immediately adjacent to you is still C2.
That would be a helpful.
But
You
still,
mean
it's,
the north of us is still C2?
Yes, just immediately to the north is still C2.
Yeah, that's ours.
One property to the north
Uh-huh.
is what we're asking about. That, where you see that 57554?
Yeah.
That's 15 acres as it's shown right there.
That's right, that's split into
Now it's been split into three.
three.
The property that we're talking about, and I'm sorry, I know I'm totally
No,
breaking
it's
protocol.
fine.
The center of that property, if you'll think about that, that's what we're talking about here tonight. The property just to the south of that, that's immediately adjacent to you, we're not asking to have that region. That's still C2.
look, they could,
Thank you so much.
they could.
Yeah, that's right, because the other two have already turned into SU1.
Right.
The other one
Well,
might.
the one closest to the corner, on the corner of Stout and Calhoun, Matt Mills owns that, and that's his. He's already built a contracting office there.
Yeah.
That's gonna stay C2. So you have C2, like y'all, my C2, the SU1, and then another C2. So the majority still C2.
Yeah, that's right, because they're saying like until we bring the development, our plan, they cannot really say anything at this point.
And opposite to
that site, that 12.4 is also ours. We are planning to gas station for that corner.
This one right
This
here?
one,
Yeah,
yeah.
that one, right, yeah. That's ours.
That's the corner of Sowell Road and,
Corner of Stout and
Stout.
County.
I mean, Stout Road and, yeah, Stout Road
That's
and
12
County
by 4.
Park.
Yeah, that's our part, that's
So
ours.
we are planning strip mall kind of stuff and corner gas station, that kind of stuff. Because we don't have roads and connections, so we are still waiting future plans.
Okay. And you'll be received before this board just like anyone else. Would like to hear your plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Give me just one second.
Okay.
We don't have much residential.
But we're the commercial center.
Okay, does anybody else like to speak in favor or against this development?
Yes.
Okay, not hearing any, I will close the public hearing. Commission, do I have a motion to accept or reject this rezoning request?
I move that we accept the request as printed.
Have a motion to accept as delivered. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Call for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those against, by like sign. Hearing none, the rezoning is passed. Now, those who spoke not in favor of it, you have the right to appeal this recommendation to the Board of Aldermen at their next meeting. Okay? And I would, if you feel like you need to, I would encourage you to do so. Otherwise, it would recommend that we do the rezone. All right?
Okay. Oh, and Mr. Chairman, just make reference and make note that the next meeting of the Mayor Board of Aldermen will be May the 6th. It is not it's a special call meeting, so it's not the currently scheduled meeting. It's going to be on May 6th at 6 o'clock in this room as well. Right, it is May 6th. I was about to say. Correct. May 6th.
Just so you know, they're not as nice as we are. All right. So the next item on the agenda is discussion and consideration and application of rezoning of Agnes Estate. And we have 3 items to discuss here. We can break this out into 3 separate hearings, or we can be smart and do it all at one time. Seeing that there's nobody here, I would propose we do it all in one, that would speak negative. I would propose we do it all at one time so we can get out of here and catch the letter. I'll second that.
That's probably.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no objection from the audience, I think that's perfectly acceptable to do.
All right, do your jurisdiction, Kitty.
All right, Mr. Hall, if you can you just confirm that the proper posting and publication was done for all 3 of these particular rezonings in the newspaper and on the property itself?
It was.
All right, and during the pendency of these 3 applications, has your office received any feedback, whether that be in favor or in opposition to the rezoning, in writing or verbally?
We have not.
Mr. Chairman, we do have jurisdiction of the public.
Very much. How long did it take you to memorize all that?
I still don't have it memorized. I just kind of try to.
You said read. All right, Mr. Hall, give us some comments about it.
This property is located on Old Jackson Road on the east side, across from Fastenal and what will be Storage City that's previously approved. It sort of surrounds the property, the Tucker property that was recently approved to be rezoned to C2 as well. The reason for the rezone request is a change of character in the neighborhood. That went from a gravel road when I grew up to it is now a 5-lane highway in front of it. So it would be reasonable from my office to assume that that was a change of character. But they are here petitioning that all 3 properties, which are adjacent to each other for the most part, be rezoned to C2 commercial.
There's a gardening place right next to it.
Correct.
Okay, and then the sheriff's old house is right next to that.
Correct. And they sort of
So-
wrap all around it.
Okay, so, okay, I'm just trying to get my mind exactly where we're at. Okay. Has there been any consideration of, instead of A1, going to I1 or industrial?
That is what the west side of the road is.
Yeah, the west side is that, due to the sizing of the lots and whatnot, C2 is a better fit
Okay,
for the area.
okay. I know our community is, we don't have a lot of industrial property or zoned industrial property. It just seems to be a good fit, but if the size is not appropriate. Okay. All right, any questions, Mr. Hall? Okay, please have a seat. All right, anybody like to speak in favor? No, I want to hear from him.
I'm definitely
I'm in favor. Yeah, I'm in favor. Let's go.
All right, I don't see anybody here to talk. Mr. Hall, you getting up to talk against it?
No, I'm just waiting my turn.
Go.
Okay, all right. So I close the public hearing. Do I hear a motion to accept the rezoning of this property, all 3 parcels of this property from A1 to C2?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Call for a vote. Those in favor of rezoning?
Aye.
I feel like you're ready to go.
Okay. Those opposed? Hearing none, the motion carries. Okay, thank you very much. You are now C2. Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
I would,
Recommend
It's a
C2.
recommendation.
Recommended C2, recommended, but they don't turn us down too much.
not too often.
So
William,
May 6th, the board shall meet to make the final.
May 6th, board all will make, they make the decision.
I was gonna say, this area on the comprehensive plan for the future land use does show industrial, so I know that's something that when we get to updating that plan, we'll need to look at that.
Yeah,
You know that comprehensive plan?
yeah.
We've been waiting on 3 years.
But what abuts it, unfortunately, that is not really in our control a whole lot,
Is,
is residential. And I don't want to put industrial right up against residential.
right. No, I think it should be commercial too. We just need to update, because it shows all that residential, like up in that northeastern corner is industrial, and I don't see any chance that all, I guess because it's near the highway, or near the railroad, maybe.
C2 makes sense.
Yes, well, yeah. Here on the main drag at least, yeah.
All right. Okay, let's move on our agenda.
Thank you.
We'll talk about new business, and we have discussion consideration of 1265 Gluckstadt Road site plan. I guess that's you.
That's me. This is an existing building. It is on the south side of Gluckstadt Road, directly across Weisenberger from Wendy's. Essentially, they are looking to remodel at a curb cut for a drive-through entrance down through here. And this will be remodeled to become a medical provider.
A medical provider?
Correct, like we have Trust Care and such, it's a
Like a
direct
clinic.
competitor for them.
Okay.
The Lowe's
Clinic?
Like
Medical
an urgent
Clinic is
care.
right there.
Clinic,
a clinic.
Urgent care.
Knock in a box. What can I say?
That's just how he said it.
I love that building.
Knock in a box.
I've always liked that.
What's currently in that building? Is it just residential, or
currently
just,
It was a-
just
the
office?
floors.
Yeah, Homewell Services is there. They're sort of an in-home nursing services provider. They're in the north portion of that building.
Okay. So are they gonna stay, or is the whole thing being?
They'll
renovated?
stay.
They're staying.
So it's the curb cuts that we're,
Yeah, that was my
Yeah,
biggest.
the whole site
concern.
plan is kind of what we're looking at here. The
but
curb,
they're
the
not
parking
making
lot.
any
Changes to the
changes to
building.
the structure?
No,
So why is it?
well,
why is
they
it-
will, but those are construction plans for
Okay.
build out.
So what's it in front of us for? I mean, what do we
Site
need to
plan
do?
approval.
Curb cut,
Curb
parking
cut.
lot.
Oh, it's just a site plan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. It didn't say that, it just said consider.
Yeah, I don't know what Unico did because that whole section is for site plan consider. It's done something odd.
That's fine. That's long.
Oh, yeah, it should be.
Yeah. I've got you with me now.
So I guess, they need more parking to meet the parking minimums? I had trouble reading the site plans on the PDF. They were a little too small.
Yeah, does not exist right now. So they're making parking space for the clinic,
Right.
adding a dumpster that's enclosed and everything like that.
Current parking is only here.
Right. And I guess that will remain in use for the other tenant.
For Homewell and the staff of the clinic.
Do we have any rules about how close curb cuts can go to intersections? That was my biggest concern, was it's pretty close, like 150 feet or something from the intersection.
I don't believe we have anything or something.
I think we do, but it is
It's very
a
close.
very small number.
Yeah, like
I don't
40 feet
like-
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to say 80 is in my head. So,
Yeah, I was counting up the curb cuts on that stretch of the road, Weisenberger, and there's already a whole bunch. I don't know if there's any way they could tie in with, is that Utah construction south of them? Could they tie in and share a curb cut? I think our rules have something that says they're supposed to show that they attempted to coordinate with neighboring property owners to minimize, it's got some vague language in there about that. I don't know if that's something we could push for, because it would only be a tiny bit of extra asphalt and say put an extra driveway. That was the only thing I thought about.
we can look. you
Would
know,
that affect
see
your
what all-
parking spaces?
It could, that
They
could. take
lose a
300
couple for
parking
the drive-through, but they could maybe then put somewhere the other drive is. Yeah.
What's the, I can't tell on the color rendering of, if you go page 111. Is that just asphalt out back, or is that?
There was like a gravel,
Right there.
it was gravel
Right here.
bordered by cross ties is what it currently is, it says on there.
Right there.
Right there, yeah. So it's not like this.
Well, no, that was the one to the right, yeah.
Right, right, that
yeah.
dark spot, yeah.
Yeah, they have it labeled as gravel bordered by cross ties.
Yeah, it's just gravel.
Okay, so it's not like it's holding water.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it does
How
kind
many-
It kind of looks like it,
How many parking spaces do they currently have and what will this allow them to have?
Currently, if I remember right, there's actually no markings on that parking lot that they currently have, so there's no way to count.
Okay.
This building's been there a long
Yeah,
Well,
time.
it's been here a long time.
there's about 4 vehicles
Yeah.
out front.
I just
Now,
couldn't see
there is
it.
a
I thought it was
smaller
many.
parking lot
I didn't see it.
on that end, yeah, right there. And I believe you put like 4 vehicles in there. There may have been lines at one time, you kind of see the concrete looks a little different.
It's
But-
interesting drive, so. But I mean, if it would be a help with traffic flow and stuff, you know, I like the idea of trying to tie it in with Utah. And, you know, that would require them to be on board, obviously. I also don't hate the idea of just no curb cut at all and require them to come in from Gluckstadt Road. I don't know if that will be an option also. I'm sure they'd like more frontage, but
I don't, how much of their traffic would come in off Glastonbury? It doesn't seem like that would be an efficient way to get there, would it?
Well, one thing
And then
we might run into is physically being able to put a drive wide enough in there for fire code.
okay.
Because if you are gonna have a two-way drive, it must be at least 26 feet wide.
That existing one probably doesn't need that, I guess.
And if it's a one-way, you only have to be 14 feet.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's probably 20 feet wide, the existing one, something like that. Well, what do y'all think?
Are we meeting all the parking requirements and everything for this?
Their preliminary does.
Okay. I mean, I like the idea of sharing a curb cut with, but if it's gonna have to be so much wider, is it really gonna matter? So if we were just,
Well, they would, no, I don't think they'd have to change the existing curb cut as long as they could come in at on the parking lot side, but
They can widen it.
they could widen it a little bit. It'd still be better than having two.
But do you have to have permission? He's gonna have to get
Yes.
permission.
Yeah, or I can read the,
And the other thing that we hadn't looked into is, are there any utilities running through there? What easements? or
there
right-of-ways
is,
are
there is a gutter intake where they propose their cut. So
Yeah,
that's
they were gonna change that to a grade.
a grate.
Across the road.
Okay. Are those effective? I don't know.
But yeah, they take it just,
That'd be fine.
as long as you keep clear of debris on top.
You go from a slot that's this tall and this wide to a grate that's
Yeah,
this long
bigger,
and this wide.
bigger
So
sizing.
The only thing that could possibly be an issue would be this powerful.
Mhm. Yeah, I was gonna read, it's on page 43. Common access ways to reduce traffic hazards on collector and arterial streets, which I believe this is a minor arterial. Says where practicable, developers of adjoining lots for commercial, industrial, or public quasi-public use shall provide common access ways in order to reduce number of points of ingress and egress along collector and arterial streets. Provision of such common access ways for adjoining property shall be considered in the preparation of the site plan required by these regulations. Site plan shall not be recommended for approval unless the Planning and Zoning Commission determines that the developer has made a reasonable effort to coordinate the provision of common access ways for the adjoining property owners. So depends on what reasonable effort is.
and Utah doesn't, they don't have any signage or anything out there at their curb cut.
not that I'm aware of.
So it wouldn't be
What do you mean by signage? Like
That are ground sign.
like a ground sign that would be,
like on the
They
right
do on the
side?
south side.
It's on the
Oh,
south
okay, so the
side, yeah.
looks like they have some.
Theirs is right here. And there's that power pole and the gutter grate, but they were
right, so it wouldn't be,
So you thinking that power pole's gonna need to be moved?
At the others.
That's a 3-pot bank on a 13 kV line. No, that's a double circuit line.
Sounds like something they've got to take up with them.
Yeah.
And see, all that goes underground right there. So, you know, where does that go?
So,
I mean, that adds more to the mystery of, can you join them in?
well, the first thing they need to do is check with HG on that pole, because that's gonna be expensive.
And I guess we don't have a representative here. I know that's also one of the things we're supposed to have for approval. Could we table this and request further information, have them come back next month
Yeah, I think so too.
They have a representative.
and have a representative?
I thought Bruce was in there.
I thought he was.
Bruce was in there.
All right, you'll have a motion to table this to next month.
Do we need to specify any specifics in the motion as far as requesting information? Do y'all care about the curb cut or y'all okay?
I mean,
We can ask if they had any discussions with Utah, I guess. Or,
Will you meet with them and talk with them about some of the issues that we were brought up?
so as long as it's reflected in our,
I'm just gonna say that what I assume your motion would be is to table for the applicant to provide additional information.
Yeah,
and William can get with them on that.
and William, I would talk to them clearly
clearly and let them understand that there's some significant expenses associated with
Moving utility.
moving utilities and drainage, the whole 9 yards. That
If it's Bridgeforth, it's much better.
He's okay with that.
He's okay with that.
No, I mean, he may, but I don't.
who is?
I don't think that would be an issue for Bridgeforth.
Well, there needs to be some consideration about it. We need to
We need to
understand,
say we inform.
Yeah,
you know.
okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a second. How about a vote?
Aye.
Good. We're waiting on you, Henry. All right, here, do I have anybody opposed? No. All right, it moves.
And we'll also request high quality.
All right, next meeting is
I didn't know if that was.
May
coming to us.
27th.
I can't.
That's good.
and, I will not be there, so Melanie, you got it. Andrew, okay, Melanie won't,
I may not do it.
we may not even have a quorum for next meeting. Not for
What is
the,
that,
not for the 27th?
Still gonna try.
Okay, all right, Andrew, would you like to make a motion to adjourn?
Sure, I'll make the motion.
Okay,
Right there, here, a
I'll
second.
second.
All right, all in favor? Andrew?
Aye.
Okay, all opposed? Motion carries. See y'all next month.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Andrew. Sorry, bud.
This